Hello, teenagers and trash cans. My name is TBSguy, and welcome to Final Fantasy VIII. So, we completed Final Fantasy VII on the channel, and while I was playing through that game, I basically got the idea in my head of, hang on, I was only playing Final Fantasy VII because I wanted to play the remake soon, and I wanted to have the original done for comparison, but on the other hand, Final Fantasy is an incredibly important game series to me. It's been incredibly influential on me and on the way that I see video games and stuff, so why not continue with it? So I made the decision, let's do Final Fantasy VIII as well, and then maybe Final Fantasy IX, because Final Fantasy IX is my favorite Final Fantasy of all time. Final Fantasy VIII isn't. In fact, for a very long time, I would have told you that Final Fantasy VIII was the worst one of all of them. Just, absolutely terrible. That was before I knew about Mystic Quest, obviously. But I very, very, very much did not like Final Fantasy VIII because it is such a different beast from Final Fantasy VII. It has very different things on its mind, and it has a very different approach to its characters and the story and its world building and its entire conception. And when I was a stupid teenage boy, I didn't like that at all. This is a romance story. I don't like romance stories. Ew, romance stories are for girls. That's gross. I just want swords and magic and blowing stuff up. And having grown up a little bit since then, thank God, my opinion has shifted. And now I do believe that Final Fantasy VIII is actually quite a good video game with quite a good story when you get right down to it. Not that it's flawless, and we will talk at length about the flaws as we actually get into it. But I did want to bring this up first, that it's a game about which my opinions have shifted substantially over time. And it's a game that, with the benefit of further hindsight, I can now see how important this one was as well, especially for the development of the Final Fantasy series, especially for the development of one of the people who was at the helm of this particular game, Tetsuya Nomura. And we'll talk about that as well. But final little bit of business before we get into it. This is the Final Fantasy VIII remaster. It is not the original vanilla Steam version, which I owned, and I even extensively modded that back in the day. And I considered doing the original version because there are mods available for it that upscale various textures in the game, and where they've used a deep learning AI to smooth out the textures and sort of remove the blurriness from a lot of the graphics and make it just look quite a lot better than it did originally. The remaster looks quite rough. And so does the original. And part of the reason why they look so rough is because, quite literally, much like with Final Fantasy VII, Square Enix lost all of the source files for Final Fantasy VIII. That's why they could never do a proper, full remaster of the game, and why they've had to put out this sort of half measure of a remaster, frankly, is because they literally don't have the source files. They don't have the assets. They don't have the original files that the backgrounds and the characters were created from. And so in order to remaster it, they would basically have to remake all of the assets for the game from scratch, because Square Enix was, for quite a long time, a little bit of a mess as a company. Certainly their archival practices were quite abysmal. Something that they managed to fix, thank God, later on down the line, but something which has very much affected the legacy of Final Fantasy VIII because it hampered their ability to do anything with the game after release. And we'll talk about that as we get into it, but I think it's time to finally play the opening cutscene. Drama. We'll talk about that cutscene a little bit before we start moving on through the dialogue that's about to start. So that opening cutscene, when you compare and contrast that with the opening cutscene of something like, for example, Final Fantasy VII, the previous game that we played here on the channel, or indeed the closing cutscene of that game, you can see the quantum leap that has happened in what Square Enix, or Squaresoft at that time, were able to do with 3D animation, with effects, with graphics. Not just in terms of fidelity, not just in terms of, oh, they actually look like people instead of weird little ball-jointed dolls now, but in terms of characters that move naturalistically, like that have a weight and flow and feeling to their movement that they simply did not have in those older cutscenes. This Final Fantasy VIII came out 2 years, just 2 years after Final Fantasy VII. Like, that's a very, very short span of time to have raced ahead that far in terms of the fidelity of the character models and the animation and the effects and the graphics and stuff like that. And this is also around the time that Square Enix, as far as I know, were starting to warm up to the idea of maybe doing a Final Fantasy movie, which eventually became Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which was a bit of a weird thing that wasn't very interesting or fun, but you can see, like, the quantum leaps that were happening in terms of what it was possible to do with 3D animation that made people start to get excited about this thing as a possibility. Another thing to note about the intro is, if you're familiar with Kingdom Hearts, a lot of the intro to Final Fantasy VII will feel very familiar to you because it has exactly the same kind of aesthetic, like with the floating text, with these sort of vaguely emotional but very difficult to parse dialogue happening and you know, panning over various sort of semi-abstract environments. Like, we go from a seashore to a desert to this flowery field where there's a woman standing there and there's flowers all around, and we pop back and forth in time, and we have this text in all kinds of different fonts popping up on screen. Very Kingdom Heartsy. Like, Kingdom Hearts has sort of represents an evolution of that particular aesthetic of cutscene direction, but it also represents something extremely different for Final Fantasy as a series, because here we're moving very much out of the realm of the literal, which all of the cutscenes in Final Fantasy VII, perhaps except for the final ones between Cloud and Sephiroth, are literal. Like, it's, you see, here's a camera swooping over Midgar, here comes a train, and then Cloud. But this one has a very different feeling. This is not about establishing any of the lore, or the story, or the setting, or the context of the game. This is about establishing the emotion of the game. And what the intro cutscene tells us is, okay, this is a story between a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl, perhaps more specifically. And it's a highly emotionally charged story. It's a story, it's much more about feeling than about, you know, a plot necessarily, which we're going to see that that's very true as we play through this game. And it also establishes the rivalry between Squall and Cypher, completely absent any context. They're just two anime boys fighting with swords in some dark field under a thundering sky. For no apparent reason, but their character design, and this is something that this game actually does very well, their character design immediately establishes an obvious, powerful contrast between them. Squall, he's a brunette, and he's got black clothes on, like all emo boy with all the bells, and he clearly listens to My Chemical Romance. And then we have Cypher, on the other hand, with his Backstreet Boys haircut, and like his pretty boy attitude and his white coat, and his superior sneer. So you get this immediate, powerful contrast between these two men, these two boys, slowly becoming men, that you have no idea what the fuck is going on with them, or why they're fighting, or anything is happening there, but you immediately understand, okay, these two are rivals, they have strong negative feelings about each other, and they are also prone to fighting. Okay, cool. We get that now. And again, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I was not interested in parsing any of that shit. Like, I was not interested in thinking even that deep about any goddamn thing. I was just thinking, but what's that about? Why was that? That didn't make any sense. But, yeah, it actually does make sense. You just have to not approach it analytically. You have to approach it emotionally. You have to think about the feeling that's being communicated here. And that's part of my maturation as a human being, is that I've learned to kind of appreciate those things a little bit more as I've grown older, and I've kind of grown bored with things that are overly literal, and gotten a little bit more interested in stuff that's a bit more metaphorical and emotional. Which is not to say that Final Fantasy VIII is a better written game than 7. I mean, technically it is, because the translation of 7 is so abysmal, but rather that I have accepted it for being something very different than the original. Now, the main feature of the Final Fantasy VII Remaster, well, there's a couple of them. You can see those icons appearing up in the top left of the screen right now. Those are boosts that I can activate by clicking the the sticks on my controller. One of them speeds the game up by 3. You can see how here you can see it. Look at the window, the curtain, blowing much faster in the wind, and then I turn it off. And this one makes me invulnerable in battle, and this one makes it so that there are no random encounters, so I can just run around as I please. I'll try not to use them too much. I will never use the battle boost, because that's not going to be necessary, believe me. But I might use the no encounters one, and I might use the speed boost, depending on what exactly it is that we're doing. And then the other main feature of the Final Fantasy VII Remaster, of course, is the updated character models. These were pretty much the only thing that Squaresoft were able, or Square Enix in modern day, were able to go and directly edit and completely build up from scratch. They have been rebuilt from scratch on top of the same animation rigs, as far as I can make out anyway. And they look substantially better than they did back in the day, as anyone who has played the original can attest to, which comes with benefits and with a few downsides, as we shall see. Anyway, how are you feeling? Okay, I guess. Take it easy next time, you hear? Looks like your eyes are focusing. You should be fine. Say your name for me. We will, of course, call him Squall. Why don't you take it easy in training? Next time you might not be so lucky. Tell that to Cypher. That's Cypher. Won't listen to anyone. Why don't you ignore him? I can't just run away. You want to be cool, huh? Well, don't get hurt in the process. Let's see, your instructor is... Quistis. I'll call her now. Just wait here a minute. Quistis, come and get your student. Yes. His injury is not serious. It will probably leave a scar. All right. Now, please come by. Squall. So, we meet again. My, who is this mysterious woman? We will not find out for a long time. Not gonna lie, I used to have a little bit of a crush on Quistis when I was younger. She's the best girl of the game, just saying. I knew. Let's see, what the hell's a good voice for her? We're gonna be hearing a lot of it, so I better figure out something. I feel like a British accent works for her because, well, because that's the kind of person that she... Well, I knew it'd be either you or Cypher. Come on, let's go. Today's the field exam. Squall, is there something on your mind? Not really. Not really? What's so funny? Funny? No, it's not that. I'm just happy. I feel like I'm beginning to understand my student a little, that's all. I'm more complex than you think. Then tell me. Tell me more about yourself. That's none of your business. Hopefully I'll improve the voices as I go. And here's Square showing off. So, one thing I also was not really familiar with when I was younger is the concept of the Japanese high school drama. Good morning, class. Let's start with today's schedule. There seem to have been some rumors flying around since yesterday. Yes, the field exam for seat candidates will begin later this afternoon. So here we see one of the disadvantages of the character models being updated. Now, when you take a look at this screen, can you guess which character models are actually 3D, and which ones have been painted into the actual background? I'll give you a few minutes to check for the subtle differences between... So, the game could kind of get away with this on the PS1 back in the day, because the resolution was so low that all the character models looked about as pixelated as the poor background characters who are rendered into the scene here. And from that perspective, it probably made perfect sense not to render too many character models on screen at one time, so let's just bake them into the background. That came back to bite them in the ass when it was time to do a remaster, and it turns out, oh, there are certain things we can't make them look any less shit. Oh dear, that's not a good thing, is it? So yeah, that's one of the disadvantages of the remaster, is that the updated fidelity on the character models makes the places where the character models aren't updated look... Well, it makes it stand out all the more. Those not participating, and those who failed last week's written test, are to remain here in study hall. Field exam participants will have free time until the exam. Just be sure you're in top condition. Meet in the hall at 1600 hours. I'll announce the team assignments there. Any questions? Oh, and Cypher. Do not injure your partner while training. Be careful from now on. Field exam participants, I will see you all later. And Squall, I need to talk to you. So, like I was saying, one thing I really wasn't familiar with when I was younger is the concept of the Japanese high school drama. The slice of life comedy. All of those tropes and all of those things are very, very, very present in Final Fantasy VIII. And if you've watched any amount of, like, anime, you'll end up becoming familiar with them, because, like, every single high school anime has this kind of stuff. But here, in terms of oh, some people are popular and that the whole popularity contest, but because I was also too young to be in high school myself at the time, that was completely outside of my experience, so I couldn't really parse the references that were being made here, that this is a high school environment in the tradition of the Japanese anime, where a high school also serves a double function as, like, oh, maybe the high school students all have magic superpowers and fight God, or there's assassinations, or there's some kind of dark plot, or ghosts, or whatever. Like, there's a long tradition, especially in anime and manga, about high school students who are thrust into extraordinary circumstances. Like, for instance, maybe they also comprise the units of an elite military squad, and they have, like, interpersonal drama about being good at being in the military squad, and, ooh, I want to be top of my class in the military squad because of... Like, I couldn't really parse that stuff back then. From a modern perspective, there's some interesting commentary there that we'll get into, believe you me. But first, we have to go get our girlfriends. So this is the tutorial bit, and it does a lot of the world building also for the game. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit up the tutorial. And we're going to download some girlfriends. Now, she may not, she may not be your type, but trust me, she has a wonderful electric personality. And then there's Shiva, who's just absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, these are guardian forces. The game doesn't explain this to you for a while, but they are summons in this video game. And they are also, like, where materia in Final Fantasy VII was how you got your character to be able to, like, to do magic, or do stealing, or use various commands in a fight. Here, guardian forces are the things that allow your characters access to various battle commands. And it's kind of a complicated system, which, again, I had trouble understanding as a kid, especially since I wasn't as good at English back then. Which is actually kind of interesting and intricate, but it's also incredibly exploitable, which is one of the weaknesses of this video game. Which is why there's a lot of mods out there you can find, especially for the original PC version, that are just basically about increasing the difficulty of the game, like, tenfold. So that if you are someone who knows how to fully exploit the game systems, it doesn't become a fucking cakewalk almost immediately. So, this is entirely optional, what we're about to do. This is your school computer, something like that, your desk computer, which gives you a hell of a lot of world-building information about the world that contextualizes a lot of things that happen later But if you don't sit down and read this on your own, out of your own interest, you're going to be really confused. So we're going to not be confused. About magic. Magic used by ordinary people is actually para-magic. In essence, it is a technique which involves controlling energy. Para-magic was developed by Dr. Odin. He was the first scientist to research the nature of magic by studying a sorceress. The skill can be gained through proper training. However, with magic, it is difficult to achieve power levels that are comparable to conventional weapons. A GF is an independent energy force. By combining it with para-magic, it is possible to control tremendous energy. Memory loss is a possible side effect, but this has not been proven as of yet. Keep that in mind. A woman who has inherited the power of a sorceress. That's what a sorceress is. The origins of the sorceress go back to the ancient times, during Hein's reign. However, there is no factual evidence. Sorceresses are really bloody important to this game. We'll be hearing a lot about them, but here I just want to establish it for you, that this is a hereditary thing where people who can do real magic are sorceresses, and everybody else doing magic is basically doing like a pale imitation of true magic. And this is going to take us a while. So we're not going to read all of this out, but I just want to show it to you. Because this whole menu and all of the text and stuff that's in it and all this, like, these are the rules of the place and blah, blah, blah. And here you see dormitory. Everybody's welcome to apply for dormitories. Seeds have priority for the single rooms. Going out after hours for reasons other than training are prohibited. Do not leave personal possessions in common areas, right? There's a lot of world building going on for the kind of place that the garden is. Applicants between 5 and 15 are admitted. All hardworking and confident youths are welcome. Ambitious overachievers are also welcome. Applicants are admitted only after passing a final interview. Keep that in mind. Applicants between ages 5 and 15 are admitted. Graduation must be between 15 and 19 years of age. One must have all the required skills and knowledge taught through Garden's courses. One must have the headmaster's approval to graduate. At age 20, regardless of graduation, all students are released from the Garden. The Garden supports a program that helps graduates enlist in armies all over the world. Instructors and seeds are permitted to remain at the Garden. However, seedship must be attained before the age of 20. They admit children as young as 5 and train them to help them enlist in armies all over the world. Keep that in just in the back of your head that that's what's going on here. Balaam Garden Headmaster, Sid Kramer. Balaam Garden Proprietor, Master Norg. I can't read it any other way, it's Norg. Balaam Garden was the first garden built in accordance with Headmaster Sid's ideals and dreams. Then there's Trabia Garden. A garden in the Trabia region. There's an exchange program between Trabia and Balaam Garden. Interesting. And then Galbadia Garden. A garden in the Galbadia Republic. It is the largest garden of the 3. Galbadia Garden's master, Martine, who is also the headmaster, has set up a program to recruit Balaam graduates into the Galbadian army. Again, lots of world building, lots of information that'll come kind of out of nowhere for you if you haven't read all this supplementary material. Which is a thing which I would call a failing of storytelling in the game itself. Like, it's a point of criticism that the game, despite having a setting and having a story that is so, relatively speaking, down to earth in terms of the way it characterizes as a high school drama and as a romance and stuff like that, it has so much supplementary backstory material that you have to seek out on your own to really start understanding what's going on. At least I found so. So, Seed are Balaam Garden's mercenaries. Commanding Guardian forces, they have special fighting abilities. They work in small teams and operate all over the world. So, guerrilla mercenary squads. Seeds are deployed all over the world. Their services are requested by governments and even civilians. Their tasks range from providing military support to protecting civilians. Qualifications for Seed. Students can apply after the age of 15. Passing the written test and completing an official mission are required to become Seed. Seeds are paid according to rank. So, this is a garden, and the garden trains seeds that they then spread all over the world. Okay. And we're not done. So this is just like an event calendar, basically. The competition for the hot dogs and meals is getting really out of hand. We're doing our best to provide everyone with enough food, so please be patient and conduct yourselves in an orderly fashion. Thank you. As you well know, magic and weapons are prohibited inside the cafeteria. Implication being that students are literally having, like, violent fights over hot dogs, which is a subplot in this game. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to read all of it out. I'm just going to show you that all of this stuff is here. For example, the following materials are overdue. Please return them to the library immediately. Insect Guidebook, Color Edition, taken out by someone named Raijin, and Goodbye Pupurun, which sounds like a children's book, taken out by someone named Raijin. I wonder if that's someone. The following requested materials have arrived. Edible flowers, turbine engines, We Meet Again, Pupurun, and The Sorceress's Night, Scenario Edition. Keep that last book in mind. Right. And then the school festival committee. We're almost done, I promise. It's just, boy, this game front-loaded a whole bunch of interesting, important information. Thanks for looking at this page, but there won't be any updates for a while. That's because I, the Garden Festival chair, will be leaving Garden. I did not strive to be a seed, and I won't even graduate. I devoted all my time to the Garden Festival, my passion. But in the end, there was no Garden Festival. That's because no one volunteered to help out. But I have only myself to blame. I thought I alone could pull it off. I'll be starting a new life, but I sincerely hope that someone will take over the Garden Festival committee. Goodbye, Balaam Garden, Wimbley Donner. Keep that one in mind as well, because that's also set up for a minor plot line that's happening later on in the game. Okay, we're done. We're done now. No more of that. Let's play the actual video game. God damn. You haven't been to the fire cavern yet, have you? You won't be able to take part in today's seed exam if you don't pass this prerequisite. I was gonna go this morning, but Cypher. Do you have a good excuse? Not really. Then let's get going. If you're not too confident yet, you can review your studies at the study panel. I'll be waiting at the front gate, so come down when you're ready. You can access the study panel from your seat. I'm not going to do that the whole time, but it is one of those funny little JRPG conventions to highlight important things by using this bracket system and color text and stuff. Which, when I read it in my head, it always sounds like you can access the study panel from your seat. Like, it sounds like they're putting heavy emphasis on the words, but in fact, all it's meant to denote is that, okay, this is a specific thing. Like, this thing has meaning beyond just being the name for the thing. It's something specific that you have to go and, like, that you can maybe find or think about, which is a clever way to do it in terms of communicating importance through writing. But it's just an awkward thing. Along with Instructor Trapey. These are Quistis's fan club. Should anything happen to Instructor Trapey, the Trapeys will get you back. I'm so jealous. Maybe I should take up that subject too. And again, this is like a high school thing where Quistis Trapey is a really popular instructor. She has like a fan club of people who are obsessed with her. I'm late!
there. Sorry, I was kind of in a hurry. Oh yeah. Hey, did you just come from that class? Is homeroom over? Oh no! This place is so much bigger than my last garden. Oh, hey! I just transferred here. Do you think you could give me a quick tour of this garden?
We'll do it, because I also want to give you guys a tour of the garden. Sure.
Woohoo! All right, let's go.
We'll take the elevator to the first floor lobby and I'll show you the directory. I'll show you the directory. I'll have to make up a better voice for that character at some point. I'll figure it out. As ever, it's always a work in progress. That's the directory. Well, this is it. Bayland Garden is pretty big. It's a good idea to check where you want to go and select it here.
I have a question. How do you use this?
Move the cursor and press on it. Next, I'll give a quick explanation of the various facilities.
Yes, sir.
You'll find the dormitory to the north. The majority of the students live in the dorms. There aren't too many students who commute.
Yeah, I'm in the dorms too.
You can rest and change in there. West of the north block is the cafeteria. There's always a big rush for the hot dogs. You better get used to waiting in line.
Got it.
East of the north block is the parking lot. You usually take the garden car when a mission comes up. The front gate is located to the south. Oh, that's right. I have to go meet Instructor Treepy at the front gate.
What's the matter?
Nothing. Next, we have the quad located in the west block. There's an event being planned there.
I know. It's the garden festival. It's gonna be great. I'm planning to be on the committee. You want to help out too?
Let's just continue. South of the west block is the infirmary. This is where you get treated for your injuries, but a lot of students just come here for advice.
What's the doctor's name?
Dr. Kadawaki. Now the east block. This is the training center. It's the only facility open at night. It's used for training, and they have real monsters running loose here. If you don't take it seriously, you may end up dead. Just be careful.
Okay.
South of the east block is the library. There's a lot of material you can look up here, but the terminals in the classroom are a lot more efficient. And you already know about the classroom on the second floor, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
By the way, the headmaster's office is located on the third floor. You need permission to get in.
Another question. What's the headmaster's name?
It's Headmaster Sid. That's about it. Anything else?
Got it. Hey, are you taking today's seed exam?
Yeah.
Then maybe I'll see you again later. I've already finished my training at my previous garden. I'm taking the seed exam today too. Good luck to us both, huh? Thanks a lot.
But yes, we will see her again. Okay, so I think most of this episode is probably just going to be dedicated to, well, running around and introducing this place to you guys a little bit. So you got a basic explanation from a little interaction with the girl there. But this is a pretty central location to the game, and they spend a lot of time setting it up.
Oh, Squall, your exam's today, right? How's that forehead doing?
And much like in Final Fantasy VII, there's some really nicely created, impressive interior designs in this game. Like, because they had these pre-rendered backgrounds, again, like in Final Fantasy VII, they could spend a ton of time crafting these environments. And because they have a fixed camera angle on them, they could make them look really good from the chosen camera angle that they've got going on. Which I quite appreciate.
Excuse me, do you play an instrument?
And in case you're wondering, yes, that is exactly the same girl that we just passed by. This is the quad. We're going to come here like twice in the entire game. But I just wanted to show you how much effort actually went into this place. A lot of the members of the Garden Festival Committee have been dispatched to conflicts around the world. That transfer student seems to be really enthusiastic about it, but... And there she is again.
You interested in what I'm doing?
I'm not interested.
And don't attract a crowd, okay? I want to surprise everyone once it's done.
Seriously need a better voice for her. But the thing is, that character, as far as I can make out, she's supposed to be very, like, childish and cutesy. In that the anime, cutesy moe girl, or Genki girl, perhaps rather, style, which I absolutely cannot replicate with voice acting. Don't ask me to try. No one wants that. So I have to figure out something else for myself that works. And the thing about pretty much everything in the garden is that most of the stuff here, it's a central location, it's important, but this cutscene here, you might never see it. You might never come here. You might never have a reason to. And that's a thing about Final Fantasy VIII, much like Final Fantasy VII, is that so much of what the game is, so much of its content, so much of its world building, so much of its story, or rather, so much of not necessarily its main story, but so many of its secondary plot lines and storylines only exist if you make the effort to go and find them. And this was already present in Final Fantasy VII, but even more so in Final Fantasy VIII, where there are entire character storylines that you're never going to see if you don't bother going around and finding them everywhere. Anyway, Fujin, one of my favorite characters from this game. Cypher! Drink! She speaks only in declaratives. I love that as a characterization so much. Can I drink something? I like some water, you know?
Ignore.
Yo, it's Squall. Oh yeah, Fujin's gonna trick you now. Want something?
Rage!
Oh.
What?
So this is with Fujin, to the best of my understanding, what she's doing is a particular language affectation that exists in Japanese, but doesn't really exist in any other language, and so the way they've had to translate it is a little bit awkward, where she only speaks in declaratives, which has a very different context in Japanese, apparently, but I don't know enough about it to be able to explain it to anyone.
Squall, can't you see the disciplinary committee is busy? Don't bother us.
Cypher needs a good voice, too. I might have to make something better up along the way. Let's see, is there anyone going to be in the cafeteria? It's been so long since I've played this game through, so I'm going to be extra careful to try and find everything. So, how's it going? Oh. So today's the field exam. I choked last time. I was way too nervous. Let's try and talk to the other guy. Oh, I love thee, Instructor Questus. I cannot sleep at night thinking of your radiating beauty. That's why I'm always falling asleep in class. Oh, how sinful you are, fucking nerd. Put a fedora on. Good grief. He's like one slip of the tongue away from saying milady. This game is also a lot more ambitious with the way it frames the camera, by the way. Like, Final Fantasy VII already had some creative camera angles and stuff like that, but this one really seems to try very hard to be cinematic about it. High school chatter. School things. Taking tests and stuff. Welcome to our rooms. Let's walk into someone else's. No idea who lives here. But this is Squall's room. No point doing that. That's the case for his sword in the foreground there. And his school uniform hanging up on the wall there, which he never wears, and for some reason that's completely okay. Like, oh no, not exit. Nobody seems to mind that Squall never wears his school uniform unless he has to. Because I guess he's the anime protagonist. Which is another visual convention that comes directly like from high school anime, where you can always spot the protagonist by whoever is allowed to have the most ridiculous hair and the silliest changes to their school uniform. That's the parking lot. No point going there. There's really nothing there.
I wanted to be a seed since I was little. It makes sense that I want to help out. I'm gonna be a seed. I'll work really hard.
There's these assholes. Student number 41269. Squall. You're that problem child. Don't you have the final seed exam today? And you're making Instructor Treepy wait. What are you still doing here?
Yeah, they're garden faculty, but they're just disciplinary jerks who yell at you for things.
Yeah, I thought I was about to die! So that's the infamous monster. The two of them ran into a T-Rex. Or a T-Rexor, specifically. Welcome to the training center. This is where I will introduce you to the combat system. And hopefully not get attacked by a T-Rex while I'm at it, because those are dangerous and can actually kill me. They probably won't, but they can. Oh, right. Right, so the combat system in this game, like I said, right now Squall has no commands and no abilities of any kind. He can only attack in battle, or run away, if that's what he wants. So, we're gonna grab, Quetzalcoatl, and junction it to Squall, which is to say equip it on him. And having Quetzalcoatl equipped allows us to equip commands. But as you can see, magic, guardian force, draw, and use item. But I only have 3 slots available, so one of these is not going to be able to fit in there. It's not like Final Fantasy VII, where you could have infinite commands, as many as you could ever possibly want, depending on how many materia you have equipped. Here you have to make some selections and some choices, and something has to be left out. So magic is simple, cast magic. But we don't have any spells, so how do we cast magic? Well, we have to draw magic, and I'll show you how that works. First, there's draw points out in the world. You can see Squall stocked 4 blizzards. So now I have 4 blizzard spells that I can cast. Please don't be a T-Rex. Okay, good. Okay, these guys I can deal with. I'm gonna kill one of them, because that makes things a little easier. Squall also has a special battle mechanic, by the way, where if you hit R1, right as he's about to strike an enemy, it does that. It goes boom. And you get like a 15% damage boost or something along those lines. If you don't hit it, then he just does a normal attack and it does normal damage. But Squall specifically has this little active time battle thing straight out of Paper Mario or something. That's unique to him, and one other character who we'll meet later can also do it. They're a temporary character, they don't stay with us long, and that's because he's got that sword, which is a gun blade, which is basically, it's a sword, but it's got the handle of a revolver. How the hell that works, like how it shoots enemies and stuff, don't ask me to explain that, because the game sure doesn't have an explanation for it. It's just cool. It's anime bullshit, and it's cool. So as you can tell, I am really not very powerful right now, but neither are they, so that's fine. It gives us an opportunity to do this. So, select the draw command, select an enemy, and then what the hell is any of this? Well, let's just see. I'm choosing to stock it, which means I'm going to absorb the spells. I now have 3 sleep spells. And they basically work on an ammo system. And, I get knocked out, of course. If you follow the Final Fantasy VII playthrough, you'll also notice that there is no limit gauge here. Characters have limit breaks, and if we play our cards right, you'll see quite a lot of them. So when you meet an enemy for the first time, you don't know what spells they have, unless, well, you don't know what spells they have. So you have to basically draw and choose to either stock or cast them. in order to find out what they have. And so part of the gameplay loop in this game is to figure out, okay, which enemies have good spells that I want, and how can I get a hold of them. And then you're kind of forced to grind a bit for it. You can also cast the spell directly, which is to say you draw a spell out of an enemy and then you instant cast it on them. Which means that so long as you have the draw command, then in every fight, because all enemies have some magic in them, you always have access to certain spells, but usually an enemy will not have a spell that it itself is weak to. So there's that, thing of trying to be careful. And so one of the grind loops of this game is to go into a battle with some enemies that hopefully can't murder you, and just do this over and over again. So why do you want to have many spells? Well, once we finish this fight, I'll show you. And since I'm here, I might as well also show you. Oh, shit, no, that's not what I meant to do. I've just summoned. And as you can see, a gauge started to count down while I was summoning. And while that gauge is up, like while that blue gauge is counting down, the Guardian Force absorbs all damage directed at your character. So basically, like, they have a health pool of their own. They have a certain amount of health and a certain amount of damage that they can take. And they take damage for you while you are summoning them. That's why they're Guardian Forces. You can use them to protect yourself. The reason I all of a sudden have full health is because I accidentally activated Battle Invulnerability while I was trying to do another thing. Anyway. So, that's a fight, right? So now we have some magic. Now you can also see below here that Squall, most of his stats are grayed out, but one of them all of a sudden is in bright white. Can't do anything with these, but I can do something with these. I can junction magic to the various stats. Right now that doesn't do anything. And that's because I only have like 2 silences, 8 sleeps, and 4 blizzards. But as you gather more and more magic, you can junction that magic to your stats, and the more magic charges you have, the more power you get. Like, so if I had, for example, 100 sleeps, I could probably boost my magic stat to 18 right now. And 100 is the maximum number of any spell that you can keep. And so that's a big part of the progression system in this game, is to acquire spells and be able to junction them to various things. And even better, you can, very importantly, you can junction magic to elemental attack or elemental defense, and to status attack and status defense, which will give you resistances against enemy damage, which is a big part of the defensive strategy in this game. As you'll notice, though, I can only junction to magic right now, and that's because each Guardian Force comes equipped with certain abilities. I'm just going to keep Quetzalcoatl on, actually. Which I'll show you now. And like I said, this game is front-loaded. Here are all of the abilities that it has. And you can see those are learned with ability points, which you earn through fighting. And here you can see junctions magic to HP, junctions magic to vitality. So I learn these, and I can junction magic to more of my stats, and thereby become much more powerful. And then there's abilities like raise your own magic damage by 20%, boost, and T-magic, which allows you to... Okay, we'll get into refining things way later, but right now I'm going to set both of my Guardian Forces to learn boost, because that's, first of all, easy to learn, and it's kind of useful. And you can see here that Quetzalcoatl took damage for me in a fight. That's why it has 288 HP left rather than 3,000, because it took damage for me when I summoned it. Okay. I think that's as much of an introduction as you need to this game. Oh boy. So let me tell you, you can see what I mean when I say that when I first played this game when I was like 12 or 13, I didn't get it at all. It took me ages to learn to understand any of this. Especially to understand it on a high enough level to be able to actually, you know, play the game competently. So, the last thing we'll do in this episode, which is just gonna be me farting around the garden, I guess, is we'll finish visiting the various places in the garden, then we'll go and save, and then we'll throw it over to the next episode. Welcome to the library, where, again, we don't have to ever go, but there's some dialogue here that gives us information. Well, I have a question for you. Yester was the country that was governed by this evil sorceress way back when, right? So, what happened to the sorceress? Did someone overthrow the sorceress? Did you learn about this in class? I think I cut class that day, so, like, I have no idea what this sorceress is about.
The following acts are prohibited within the library: talking loudly, eating and drinking, running around. And also, avoid late returns. No fighting over seats. I have to go over the library rules with the children next period. I'm very nervous. I hope they understand.
Library girl with a pigtail is someone who can be quite an important character in the game, by the way. Again, if you bother to go and evolve her storyline. I saved my seat, but where's my sturdy partner? I'll get in trouble if she doesn't come back soon. I have a chest coming up. Is that your makeup chest? It's the worst, man. I'm the only one taking it. But the thing I've been trying to point out is that the world building in this game is actually very extra. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into try to world build this game. And a lot of it doesn't really come across. Because, as a gamer, I get into this, and like my first thought is, okay, who gives a shit about any of that? Let's just, are there any items? No items? No? Okay, let's just move on. Like, it sort of asks you to sink in and empathize with the high school setting, and empathize with the students, and empathize with the drama and the stuff and the concerns that these people would have if they lived in this kind of world. It asks you to spend time in menus, reading stuff, going around, talking to incidental characters to get extra little world building details, and it's a lot to ask when you are, well, in this case, we're almost an hour into the game without anything having happened yet, but like when, for quite a long time as you get into this game, bloody nothing happens, and the longer time you spend trying to get into the world, the more nothing is going to happen in terms of like gameplay. And I think that's one of the things where the game tried really hard to do something very different from Final Fantasy VII especially, and succeeded in being different, but also missed out on some game design things that could maybe have been better. Anyway, if you have enjoyed... Oh shit, I should turn that music off, shouldn't I? If you've enjoyed hanging out in the world of Final Fantasy VIII with me, please feel free to hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons down below because they make numbers go up. Oh god, and numbers are the only thing that matter on YouTube. Apologies that this early episode is just a lot of running around and talking with very little happening, because, well, this game requires a hell of an introduction. I have a Patreon, I have a tip jar, I have a merchandise store, I have memberships on the channel. If you want to avail yourself of any of those, then you should feel free to do so. There's rewards for some of it and stuff. I'm sure you'll figure that out for yourself. Yeah. And is there anything else I need to... No, I think I plugged everything correctly. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.